The property is about 1,200 acres in size. The farthest part of it would be Camp Abbey, about 2 miles that way through the woods. Maybe your grandkids or somebody went there. Maybe you all went there when you were younger. My grandkids go there, so it's kind of a fun thing.
KFC camp.
KFC camp, yep, all those things. So here at the Abbey, of course, we have the monastery, where we have about 20 some odd monks that reside here. I'll tell you a little bit about monks in a second. We also have the largest seminary college, Catholic seminary college in the country, right back there where the students are. We have students from 22 different dioceses. As far west is probably western Texas and all the way into Florida. Primarily the south and southeast is where they come from. Back this way we have the bees that make the honey. I used to say that the monks made the honey and I was corrected. The bees make the honey. Not the monks, but that's okay. There's a wood shop back there where they make caskets and they make urns. We have a new columbarium back here as well. There's a retreat center also in the back. If you haven't been to a retreat here, it's a gorgeous facility and a lot of in fact, Jason and Angelette out of St. Peter Parish runs a marriage retreat here pretty much regularly. If you haven't done one of those yet, it's kind of a fun thing to do as well. Briefly about the monks. You're going to see guys in black. What you won't know is whether they're simply a monk or a monk and a priest. Not all monks are priests. All priests that are here, though, are monks. If that makes sense. And you can tell a monk by the fact they have a cowl on the back of their black outfit. That's how you know they're a monk and not a visiting. In fact, if you go to Mass today, you'll see the priest with the chasuble on. They don't wear the hood, but you'll see the hood back on the collar. So those are monks also. There'll be some that won't have it, that are maybe teachers at the school or something that are different. But that's how you tell the difference, whether they have the cowl on their head. This is a Benedictine monastery. The motto for the Benedictines is Ora and Labora. Ora, work and pray. That's what they do. They pray 5 times a day, typically in the church here, and they're very active. They do a lot of the maintenance around the property, and you'll see them in cut-offs and dirty shirts and the whole routine. So see them in the wood shop or wherever it happens to be, as far as that goes. This building, they moved to Ponchatoula first, briefly, and then came here to this property. The original facility stood a little bit back here and it burned down in 1907. After that, this building was built. My father actually went to school here, believe it or not, for a brief period of time, and he died when I was very young, but he lived in theory in this building at one point in his life. He obviously never became a priest. At least I didn't know if he did, so the rest of that story, that's the way that goes. So the priest and the monks, you'll see both of them. Make a mental note if you can on July 11th, it's the Feast of St. Benedict. There will be 2 junior monks that become full-time monks. They take their final vows. Has anybody been to one of those?
No.
I'll give you 30 seconds on that. So you've been to an ordination, so you've seen the priests prostrate themselves in front of the bishop and so on and so forth. Well, here, I happened to stumble across when Father Jerome, if you know Father Jerome here, it was his day to take his final vows. And I just happened to be at Mass that day because I worked. And they come in, it's a very formal event, and the monk prostrates himself in front of the abbot. But there's one difference. 4 monks get up, they take a burial pall, he's laying on the floor, and they cover him with a burial pall. Pretty much during the consecration. They take the burial pall off, and he's one of the first ones to receive the Eucharist after that. I cried like a baby, sorry, I just did. Very powerful thing. Has anybody been to Deo Gracias? Anybody been to Deo Gracias? Yeah. Oh, nobody? Okay, Deo Gracias is a once a year fundraiser for the Abbey. These trees are all lighted. Underneath those areas right there, there's tables set up, there's a band, there's a fundraiser for the Abbey every year. When we get inside, remind me, I'll tell you a quick story about me crying once again. I'll tell you that story again as we go through the process.
Squishy heart.
Was that? Yes, exactly. The foundation was done in 1929 on this building. The cornerstone was laid in February of 31. The cornerstone is right behind you, right there, the cornerstone. And then 11 months later, the church was finished, believe it or not. Now, it wasn't finished to where you see it today, but it was finished to where you could use it. The first funeral in the new church was done by the architect that designed the church, a guy named Theodore Broom from New Orleans, and he was the first funeral that was done at this particular church. So that's kind of the history of it. I may have forgotten something along the line, but what's the history? Real quick, Gregory DeWitt, you'll hear that name a couple of times. He was a Belgian monk that did the painting. Okay, he started off painting in the refectory, which we'll get to after the church here. He spent 4 years by himself in the refectory. We'll talk about that a little later. And he and his assistant spent 5 years in this church, painting all the stuff that you see in the church. As far as that goes, so very dedicated and a lot of work and a lot of time. He's been roughly almost 10 years here doing both locations. Any questions before we get in? Yes, ma'am.
I have one. The guys that are in the seminary, they are going to become parish priests.
Well, the guys in the seminary here, this is a minor seminary. He's got a lot of stuff done. It just depends. But this is the step between minor seminary and entering major seminary for theology, ultimately to become a priest. And typically there would be diocesan priests, although you could have an order of priests.